you doing?
I'm packing.
Packing? Are you going on vacation?
No, I'm not going on vacation. I'm leaving the country.
Why are you leaving the country?
I can't stay for another 4 years of this. Who knows what he's going to do?
Well, it happened again. After a bizarre and vicious campaign fueled by a desperate need not to go to jail, Donald Trump has won the 2024 election.
And I'm sorry. I told myself that this show would be uplifting tonight and give people hope and inspiration. But unfortunately, I'm too depressed and quite frankly, very, very hungover.
Yep, Trump returning to the White House is a huge historic comeback for someone who literally never went away. Of course, Trump's already super busy. First, he's got to move all those classified documents back into the White House.
It was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate.
Donald Trump has won the 2024 election, and he'll be president again for 4 more years, or 8, or 12, or whatever.
For science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine.
I voted for Kamala Harris. I know. Myers keeps it close to the vest. No one knows where Myers stands. Also, something else you should know. When I start referring to myself in the third person, it's a good sign that something in Myers' brain broke a little bit last night.
For NATO, for history, and democracy and decency. And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
America, I love you. If you are feeling upset or hurt or depressed about the turn towards fascism that your beloved homeland is taking, then all you have to do is this. Just look into your heart and you take out your foreign passport. And you go back to Malaysia, where you came from, until Trump leaves office.
November 5th was a terrible night, according to Jimmy Crybaby Kimball. And per his own words, a vote for Trump meant that you are against women, you're against children, hardworking immigrants, healthcare, the climate, science, journalism, justice. You're against free speech. You're against poor people, the middle class. You're against senior citizens. You're against our allies in NATO. You're against the truth, democracy, and decency. How dare us be against all those things? I believe he left off that we are also racist and bigot Nazis. Welcome to the live broadcast of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. And today is a wonderful day. It is a wonderful Thursday to be an American, to once again see the light at the end of the tunnel and the correction of this nation. It was like a runaway train heading to hell. We managed to not only take back 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, but the Senate, and by all means, it appears we will keep the House and actually gain some more seats in the House. I've been telling you all along that this was my hope. This was the best hope for this country. And then I also told you that in the event that it works, and we do manage to get all three branches of government again, that the hard work actually starts at that moment. Because it is now up to we, the people, to hold Congress accountable for their actions. The last time we were in this situation where we had the House, the Senate, and 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, well, what did the Republicans do to help make America great again? And that's my point. Yes, I used to be a Democrat. Yes, today I'm a registered Republican. Yes, I'm happy the Republicans are back in control again. But I will be calling out Republicans on a weekly basis if they start screwing around like they did the last time they were in power. Because if that happens, there will be no change. We won't be able to fix a damn thing if they start fighting with each other again. We cannot allow that to happen. So when I put out videos or talk about it in my show, who I need you to reach out to in Congress and express your opinion, well, that's where we come together and we make that happen. Because it's a team effort, my friends. Everything that I've been preaching about on this show has slowly but surely came true. Things that I said and I told you, for instance, the polls, don't take any stock in that. Don't let them bother you. Because what I saw was the same thing that we watched happen back in 2016 was 100% spot on. The polls were completely wrong. Now, is it going to turn out that that was just the news media screwing with us? Or that there's really a flawed system there? I'm not sure. But what I do know is that for the year leading up to the 2016 election, the day of the election, going into the news media, coming on air live to start giving you results, CNN and MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC were all saying the same thing. Look at Hillary Clinton's poll numbers. It's going to be a massive landslide. And as it turned out, that was absolutely not true. So whether there's a flawed system when they do these polls or they're just outright liars, fear and intimidation, I'm not quite sure. But regardless, in 2016, we did not get the popular vote. We got the Electoral College. But this time, talk about a landslide. I mean, it was literally 180-degree difference from everything that we were being told by the news media, to include the right-wing news media, to include Fox News. It was a victory like no other. It was a true comeback from the ashes. They were doing everything in their power, the Democrats and liberals, along with their surrogates, the liberal news media, and the Department of Justice, and the FBI, and liberal judges and liberal DAs, everything in their power to destroy Donald J. Trump and his family. They, from the moment he took office the first time, all the way up until the election just 2 days ago, they tried to ruin him financially. They tried to put him in jail. And they tried to get him assassinated. And Donald Trump prevailed. We, the people, did as well. We proved that it is not racist or bigotry to say, make America great again. We turned out in numbers that were astronomical. I kept saying, I've been saying this for 4 damn years. If we show up, if Republicans get off their ass and get out there and vote and bring people with you and keep spreading the word, get the truth out there, we can make this too big for them to try and rig it and steal it. And that's what you did. That's what the American patriots did. You fought against being called Nazis, bigots, Klan members. They were comparing us to Hitler. And they were doing everything in their power to destroy conservatives, Republicans, Donald Trump, his family, and anyone that supported him. We watched. I showed you right here on this show. Those liberal DAs and judges that were making shit up and a mockery out of our justice system. And now they're all shaking in their boots because it's payback time. It's time to put those that committed crimes, felonies, real ones, not made up BS that they tried to pull on Donald Trump, but actually bending and altering the justice system to fit their narrative. It's time that they go to jail. And it is my hope, as it should be yours, that this time Donald Trump does not put some weak ass, no balls son of a bitch in charge of the Justice Department like he did with the 2 last people he had there. We need somebody at the Justice Department that understands what, or the reason why, Lady Justice wears a blindfold. We need somebody at the Department of Justice that is going to enforce the laws equally across this nation and hold the FBI accountable. Director Wray, you may as well go ahead and retire now, because in just a few more weeks, you're fired. Now, before we dig deep into tonight's show, I want to share some breaking news that just came out right as I was fixing to go on the air. Federal judge strikes down Biden's immigration policy that was shielding select undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens from deportation. Federal judge today struck down the Biden administration's parole in place policy that gave legal status to certain undocumented individuals because they were married to a U.S. citizen. Nope. Gone. You're out of here. U.S. District Judge J. Campbell Barker had previously put an administrative hold on the regulation rolled out earlier this year when President Joe Biden was running for re-election. as the judge considered the lawsuit brought by Texas and 15 other states that joined them. The policy shielded select undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens from deportation. So what we saw was the loophole there. We saw these illegal aliens and cartels paying big bucks to women to just marry them for a piece of paper that says they're married. Some of them will never see each other again. Others are just friends to protect them from being deported. And Biden tried to lock that in to where they don't get kicked out. Well, now the federal judges said, no, that's unconstitutional. So, thank you, Judge Barker, for doing the right thing. I've been saying for several years now, and all of you that have been watching this show with me, that my subscribers that have been loyal people right here, tuning in every Tuesday and Thursday, that one of the biggest problems that we face in America is our school system. And the problem being that we hire far left liberals as teachers and professors, who then start indoctrinating our children into socialism and communism. They spew hatefulness about our forefathers, our Constitution, our flag, our police, the military, veterans, and America as a whole. And they love, love, love to spew no merit ideology about white people. Well, Trump's landslide victory, we have 2 American college professors that have proven my point. Emory University Professor Carol Anderson and Georgetown University Professor Michelle Goodwin, who, by the way, teaches constitutional law and has written 3 racist books. So, with Donald Trump's landslide victory, these 2 took the airways. Teachers, professors in our college system is what you're about to hear.
Policy, author of Policing the Womb, Invisible Women, and the Criminalization of Motherhood. And in Atlanta, Georgia, we're joined by Carol Anderson, professor of African American Studies at Emory University, author of many books, including One Person, No Vote, How Voter Suppression is Destroying Our Democracy. Her other books include The Second, Race and Guns in a Fatally Unequal America, and White Rage, The Unspoken Truth of Our Racial Divide. We welcome you back both to Democracy Now! After our 4-hour special last night. Professor Anderson, let's begin with you.
Listen closely.
If you can respond to Trump's victory.
The Confederacy won. When you begin to really think about what he advocated, the kind of racism, the kind of xenophobia, the kind of hatred, all wrapped in a sense of honor and gallantry, and how that resonated with such a large, wide swath of the American public, that begins to tell you that you're seeing the backlash to what they call the great, you're seeing the backlash to what they fear was the great replacement. And so this feels like the kind of last stand of white supremacy. And it's going to put so many of us in jeopardy. And it's also part of the drug of American exceptionalism, where those who voted for him believe that they're going to be safe from the policies that he's going to rain down. And so that becomes part of the amnesia of not seeing how he handled COVID, not remembering how he handled COVID, of not remembering his tariff wars that basically almost bankrupted farmers in Iowa. And the kind of chaos that he brings, the kind of divisiveness that he brings. It's like living in a reality show and believing that it's not reality. This is a dark day for America. I think of Thomas Jefferson when he said, I tremble for my country because God is just, because that's what we're looking at. I'm trembling for our country right now.
And Professor Anderson, the vote that Trump got, right now it's at 71 million, or probably go up 1 or 2 million more as other states are counted in and absentee ballots, but it's still roughly about the vote that he got certainly last time. But the big drop appears to be in the vote for Kamala Harris. She's at the national vote is 66 million now, significantly below the 81 million that Joe Biden got. Why do you think there's been such a disparity in her vote totals this time around?
I think part of what we're looking at, because she was explicit about policies, and so the language that she just needs to explain her policies is hokum. It's that. We're looking at the misogyny and the racism and the fear of what it meant to have a Black Asian woman who's married to a Jewish man sitting in the White House. That this was not the kind of vision of America that large swath that voted for Trump believe is America. It is the fear of what a multicultural, multiracial, multilingual, diverse America could mean. It means. And so you're seeing the backlash to her very being. It's a sad day for America. It's a sad day because there was a really explicit about the horrors of Project 2025 and what that meant for Social Security, what that meant for Medicare, what that meant for education, what that meant for equity. All of that could not override the depth of the misogyny, the depth of the racism that fuels the MAGA movement, that fuels Trump.
Yeah, I'd like to bring Professor Michelle Goodwin into the conversation from Georgetown University. Professor, your reaction to the results?
We have to understand this as a Project 2024. So the response, which I think was so eloquently put just now, is an amalgamation of a number of things. If we look at what the election results were based on race, it paints a picture. In the United States, it paints a picture with regard to how people think about electing a woman, how people think about electing a woman who is Black and of Asian descent. It paints a picture policy-wide about what Americans are willing to embrace. And in that way, it's a Project 2024, it's a Project 1619 in terms of what Americans are willing to accept. To the extent that we know that Donald Trump is willing to fulfill on what it is that he says. He said that he wanted to criminally punish women. He said in 2016, 2015, he said that he wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey. After that occurred, he took full credit for that. There were a number of things that he had hoped to dismantle. This was a president who, right after coming into office, had a Muslim ban, was responsible for kids at the border being placed in cages, being fed frozen burritos.
Nope, that was Obama.
This was an administration that had its lawyers fighting to deny those children soap and toothpaste, arguing before federal judges that those children who were locked in cages in federal custody did not deserve soap, did not deserve toothpaste. This was a president who failed on COVID, who made sure that he had medications for himself, vaccine, and then also sent to others, including what has been alleged to Russia and to Putin, so that there would be access to the best of what we had for COVID at that time. But for Americans, did not do a good job at all in terms of collaboration, cooperation, and leading with regard to COVID, and instead had suggested that perhaps injections of bleach and other things might be the way to respond to COVID. And one could really go down the list in terms of what that presidency represented, and Americans overwhelmingly voted for that. But is that something that is new? I think that one of our challenges in our country is to really understand the arc of who we've been and the arc of who we are. We tend to think that we actually had our own truth and reconciliation, such that we have confronted what have been the thorny, horrific parts of our past. And we haven't. We've done the work of South Africa, New Zealand, Australia. Germany, right? We've not looked and said, how can we tolerate systems where women were denied citizenship? How could we tolerate women being denied the right to vote? How could we tolerate women being denied the opportunity to become lawyers? And I'm talking about Supreme Court cases. How could we tolerate women being denied from serving on juries? How could we tolerate women being denied the opportunity to have bank accounts in their own names, to have their own checking accounts in their own names? And that's a modern iteration. And then we can unpack what this means in terms of Jim Crow and slavery. How could we be a nation that tolerated children standing on auction blocks and being auctioned off a bit pond, not for a horrific day where we wake up and say, my goodness, what was that all about? Bidding on children in shackles and chains? No, but not practice that lasted a day, a week, a year. A year alone might have been waking up and saying, how in the world could we have tolerated that? But to see that flow into centuries and then to create patterns of justification and narratives for that then flowed into Jim Crow, a time in the United States that was marked very narrowly by what happened to Rosa Parks, but more fulsomely, the denial of people being able to walk in the park, swim in pools, go into motels, stay at hotels, live where they wanted to based on their race. And a practice that lasted for generations upon generations that then required federal intervention. So we have to ask ourselves, how could we have tolerated all of that? And in part, the answer is what we see in the election yesterday, is that we're willing to tolerate more of that. And then we have to ask ourselves, why? What is behind that?
Professor Goodwin, you're a professor of global health. You mentioned Trump's policies during COVID, and now he said he's talking about putting Robert Kennedy, the presidential candidate, in charge of women's health. But also, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said that he expected to be in charge of what did he talk about? The CDC, the National Institutes of Health, a well-known vaccine denier. The significance of all of this, because it's beyond Trump. It's who will be in his government, from Elon Musk to RFK Jr.
That is a perfect question. And in 2015, 2016, I wrote an article about this, that while we could pay attention to, and it was right to, in terms of who would be elected president, what we needed to think about is who that individual would appoint to lead governmental agencies, because that's critically important. It relates to our clean air, the water that we drink, the education that children will be provided, and so much more. To place in context the Trump administration and COVID is to realize the following. There were more Americans that died in the first 3 months of COVID under his leadership than in 19 years of the Vietnam War, the Korean War, and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I know your listeners and viewers might be stunned by that and wonder, does Professor Goodwin have that right? Well, I have testified before Congress with regard to that. I have looked at the numbers. I have run the numbers. I've written about this. Yes, more Americans died in our first 3 months of COVID under Donald Trump's leadership than all of the Americans that died in the Vietnam War and these other wars that I mentioned. And so the risks with regard to Americans' health happens to be high. And again, it's a Project 2024 that we're looping out into a Project 2025. And I want to be clear about that, because it's not hyperbole. It is to really understand that there has been a struggle in our country towards recognizing that all Americans deserve to be healthy, deserve to be able to have access to health care. We are not like our peer nations, and ones that the former president would not call our peer nations, where there is universal health care, where there are doctors that even will come to your home, or where you can be treated easily. I know that they talk about in those other countries and you'll wait a long time, all of that. Americans have to pay a high price for their health care. Unfortunately, there's the Affordable Care Act, but note that under his administration, and there were attempts to still do away with the Affordable Care Act. So what will all of this mean in terms of the people that he will appoint? I would say, let's not just look at what this means in terms of health. We have to look at this in terms of the EPA. We have to look at this in terms of other agencies that serve the American public. And I think that people should be quite concerned. And one other thing that I will add to that, Amy, is that it is very likely that there will continue to be global epidemics, pandemics. COVID was the first of its kind in 100 years, was the second. We 100 years before had experienced something like that. But these may happen with greater frequency. People move far more today. We have more planes that are taking people from one part of the world to the other part of the world. And so it actually is really important in terms of thinking about global public health that we pay attention to who is governing in these spaces in the United States and elsewhere.
And very quickly, Professor Goodwin, the historic ballot measures enshrining the right to an abortion passed in 7 of the 10 states that they were introduced, passed in Arizona, Colorado, Nevada, Montana, Maryland, New York, and Missouri, where voters backed a measure that will overturn one of the strictest abortion bans in the nation that prohibits abortion, even in cases of rape and incest. The significance of that, and yet, at the same time, Kamala Harris loses.
Well, again, if we parse this out, what we can see is that white women overwhelmingly voted for the former president, but yet also voted for the constitutional protection or statewide protections of abortion rights in their state. So they were able to parse these issues out, even though Donald Trump is, articulated wanting to criminally punish women and wanting to, and has appointed federal judges and justices on the lower courts as well as the Supreme Court in order to make it very difficult to access reproductive health care, yet they could parse their vote. And it's not just them, it's men too. And I want to make one clarification too. In Florida, it's being articulated that women in Florida rejected the ballot initiative there. No, overwhelmingly, the majority of people in that state voted for that initiative, except it was required that there be at least 60%. And what we know is that it's been over 57, 58% that voted for the initiative. So it failed by a small percentage, but it's worth noting that that was a requirement that meant more than a majority had to vote in support of that initiative.
I want to thank you both for being with us. There's so much more to talk about, and we've also extended this broadcast to 2 hours for those stations who are taking it. We have been speaking with Michelle Goodwin, who is a professor of constitutional law and global health policy at Georgetown University, founding director of the Center for Biotechnology and Global Health Policy. And we want to thank Professor Carol Anderson, professor of African American Studies at Emory University, speaking to us from Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia, that President Trump has won the state of Georgia.
Look, there's nothing that came out of their mouths that was factual. These are 2 professors at universities in this country pushing this kind of ideology on students. That's the problem we have in this country right now that's going to make things worse as we move forward. When we have people like, that's just 2 of them out of thousands of far left liberal nut jobs in our universities, in our high schools, in our junior high schools, hell, in our elementaries that are teaching our children hatred and just outright lies. I don't think there's enough Hunter Biden crack or meth to be able to spew the shit that they spewed. I mean, that was just absolutely batshit crazy. And then, if that wasn't enough, a University of Oregon official has been placed on administrative leave after he shared a rant about Trump supporters, including his hopes that they go jump off a fucking bridge. You can literally go fuck yourself if you voted for Donald Trump. UO Assistant Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life, Leonard Serrato, said in a video clip, "If you are so sad about your groceries being expensive, then get a better fucking paying job. Do better in life. Get a fucking education. Do something because you are fucking stupid," he said. "I hope you go jump off a fucking bridge and flash a peace sign," is what he did next. He shared this rant on his public Instagram page and X, formerly Twitter, which he's now deleted because so many people went after his dumb ass. And it was also reported he did this on the Daily Emerald, the UO's student newspaper. University spokesperson Angela Sedell put out a statement that the school finds the statement made in the video appalling and not in alignment with our values or mission. "We appreciate the conflict between his statement, his role in student life at the university, and our institutional values." A different spokesperson originally told the Daily Emerald that it appeared the individual made this post on their own time, which is well within their rights. Now, in addition to placing him on leave, the university is investigating the matter under university policies and the individual role as a public employee. As a public university, we take our duty seriously to provide an environment that welcomes diversity of thought and respect in alignment for our educational mission, she said. Ahead of the election, the university formulated a plan to help students with election-related stress. This included bringing therapy dogs, therapy goats, and a therapy duck to campus and providing extra counseling service, according to the local media. Now, I know exactly what those on the left and the Democrats are going to say. I just made that shit up, that no professor would come on and say shit like that and post it all over the friggin' internet, right? Watch it for yourself.
My anger has set in. I am a very petty person, and I am very proud of that. Love it about myself, actually. And so I say this in the most disrespectful way possible. I don't care if you are my family. I don't care if you're my friend. I don't care if we've been friends our entire lives. You can literally go fuck yourself if you voted for Donald Trump. If you are so sad about your groceries being expensive, get a better fucking paying job. Do better in life. Get a fucking education. Do something. Because you're fucking stupid. And I hope you go jump off of a fucking bridge.
Peace out. And guess what? You're out of a job because you are a dumbass to have done what you did. Now, look, I get it. I understand anger. Trust me, especially when Trump lost the last time and many other things throughout my life. All right. But to do something so damn stupid. Now, the only thing I can imagine is that he thought that because he's in such a liberal state at a liberal college that he could get away with this shit. Well, he's on administrative leave as we speak. He's deleting all of his social media accounts because so many people went after his dumbass. I hope that the college does the right thing and they terminate him. And he's never, ever, ever allowed to be anything, not even a freaking janitor in a university in this country. And the same thing goes for the other two professors that I just showed you. They need to be removed because everything out of their mouths that you just watched was 100% false. And that's what's teaching our students. That's how we end up with a portion of our society that's walking around like damn zombies that mentally can't think for themselves and believe all the crap that comes from the far left. And they want to push it on you. Whether it's transgenderism and allowing boys and girls sports, or boys and girls bathrooms, or drag queens in our elementary schools for story hour and in public libraries. And the list just goes on and on and on and on and on. And thankfully, we the people had enough of that shit and made our voices known on Tuesday. Less than 24 hours after Donald Trump was elected the 47th president of the United States, liberal and Democrat social media users began pushing two conflicting narratives to suggest election fraud. One revived claim by Trump that the 2020 election was stolen from him, and the other questioned how Vice President Kamala Harris could have received so many fewer votes in 2024 than President Joe Biden did in 2020. Both narratives hinge on a supposed 20 million vote gap between Harris and Biden. Here's a closer look at the facts. The claim: President Joe Biden won approximately 20 million more votes in the 2020 election than Vice President Kamala Harris earned in the 2024 race, proving either that Trump has cheated his way to a second term or that there was widespread fraud 4 years ago. The facts. The claims are unfounded. Votes from Tuesday's presidential election are still being counted, so any comparison with previous races would not be accurate anyway. In addition, election officials and agencies monitoring the vote have reported no significant issues with Tuesday's election, which was not what happened in 2020 when they were reporting all over the freaking place that there were problems. As we have said repeatedly, our election infrastructure has been more secure, and the election community never better prepared to deliver safe, secure, free, and fair elections for the American people. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or Agent Director Jen Easterly, said in a statement. This is what we saw on Tuesday in the peaceful and secure exercise of democracy. Importantly, we have no evidence of any malice activity that had a material impact on the security or integrity of our election infrastructure. Multiple Pennsylvania officials, including the Democrat governor, Josh Shapiro, said that they have not seen any signs of cheating and called the election secure. Yet, posts circulated online claiming otherwise, receiving hundreds of thousands of likes and shares. 20 million votes weren't count. Reads one X post. I knew it. Trump cheated. Another X post, which shared a bar graph of presidential election results from 2012 all the way up to 2024. If these numbers are accurate, this is an indication of a stolen 2020 election. 20 million votes just disappeared. In other words, there were potentially 20 million fraudulent votes last cycle. That's an insane number. The Democrat candidates in 2012 and 2016 both won nearly 66 million votes, a bit less than Harris' current count. Harris had won about 67 million votes as of Wednesday afternoon, compared to the approximately 81 million votes that Biden got in 2020, a difference of about 14 million. But the gap is decreasing as the vote count continues. No state has counted 100% of its ballots yet. Trump is so far lagging behind his 2020 total by approximately 2 million votes. But this gap is also decreasing as more votes are counted. Despite claims that Trump won the 2020 election, including by Trump himself, the evidence was never allowed to be heard in a single court in this country. So Trump conceded to Biden and departed the White House with a peaceful transfer of power, although you still hear the left and many Democrats saying that there was no peaceful transfer of power. They're too stupid. They are confusing J6 with J20th. An exhaustive Associated Press investigation in 2021 found 475 incidents of confirmed voter fraud across 6 battleground states. The allegation now spreading about fraud in the 2024 race echoed many claims that emerged 4 years ago. Vice President Kamala Harris did call Trump on Wednesday, yesterday afternoon, concede the race and congratulate him. She went on to say, we must respect the results of this election. So to answer your question of the 20 million vote count difference between Biden and Harris, because of Harris' support for Israel, now do the math, liberals and Democrats, 4 million Muslim Americans living here in the United States said they would not vote for Harris. 200,000 plus Palestinian Americans living here in America said they would not vote for Harris because of her support for Israel. Approximately 30% of African Americans who voted for Biden-Harris in 2020 woke the hell up and realized the Democrat Party had done nothing for them and switched parties. That's 15 million people. Then you have another 10 million Democrats that switched parties. So that brings it to 29,200,000. That said, that's your math lesson. I mean, are y'all seriously thinking that the difference in the vote count that Biden got that Harris didn't get, such a big difference, is cheating? Are you not paying attention to the news and the people that are fleeing the Democrat Party? Every night, even on CNN and MSNBC, they've been telling you that the Muslims and the Palestinians in this country and the black people are going, we're done with this Democrat Party. It's over with. Stick a fork in it. We're not going back to them. They're doing nothing for us. You couldn't make this shit up if you tried. Really. Following his massive election victory, President-elect Trump is still scheduled for sentencing in his Manhattan criminal case later this month, with presiding judge Juan Merchan first ruling rather to dismiss the charges altogether after the Supreme Court's presidential immunity ruling that took place earlier this year. Trump was found guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records following his Manhattan criminal trial back in May. District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office worked to prove that Trump falsified the business records to conceal a $130,000 payment to former porn star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 election to quiet her claims of an alleged affair with Trump that supposedly took place in 2006, all of which Trump said didn't happen. Trump is scheduled for sentencing now on November 26th, which is already a 4-month delay from the original date of July 11th. Trump lawyers asked this judge to overturn the former president's guilty verdict in New York versus Trump after the Supreme Court ruled in July that former presidents have substantial immunity from prosecution for official acts while in office, but not for unofficial acts. Merchan is expected to rule by November 12th. As to where the charges stand, a normal judge would dismiss this case. And then the DA would have to decide what, if anything, remains so that we could consider rebringing the case. But Judge Merchan has shown himself to be nothing but an ordinary judge. And so the catch-22 is here. If he were normal, he would dismiss it. Because he's not normal, he'll probably deny the dismissal charge. But because it's an immunity claim, that gives Trump defense team the right, the legal right, to immediately appeal any denial that he pulls out of his ass. Coley Simpson, Deputy Director of the Heritage Foundation's Edward Meese III Center for Legal and Judicial Studies, said in a statement. Simpson said that even if the judge denies Trump's claim for immunity, the Trump team appeals the decision, and an appellate court also denies Trump's claim, the president-elect would not face incarceration. For all intents and purposes, no matter what happens, no matter if the judge denies it, and the appeals court follow the judge, and then the judge gets to sentence him. Even then, the Justice Department will come in and say, look, under the Supremacy Clause, you cannot impose a criminal sentence, especially one of incarceration, on a sitting president. And so that case will be on ice until after Trump gets out of office. But as a particular matter, this case and the Fannie Wells case are over, he said. Trump pleaded not guilty in the case and denied any such affairs with Daniel. The now president-elect had railed against the trial as a sham while calling the judge corrupt and conflicted, appearing to refer to the judge's family ties to the Democrat Party. His daughter worked for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Trump also lambasted the case as lawful, promoted by the Biden-Harris administration to hurt his chances of succeeding in the 2024 presidential election. Simpson continued that considering the Supreme Court's ruling on immunity, it would be impossible to take a scalpel to the case and remove the evidence connected to Trump's first White House administration and official acts in the position from the evidence connected to his life before he was president. The judge is not your typical judge, but he's not going to say there's no immunity for Trump because the highest court in the land has said that presidents enjoy absolute immunity from their official acts. And so he's going to have to recognize that the question whether he has the temperament and the judgment, which he has proven not to so far, to apply that in a fair and partial manner and dismiss these charges. By dismissing the charges, that just puts the ball back in Alvin Braggs' court. If Alvin Braggs wants to double down on stupid, which he's done a lot, he can reopen the case. But he's not going to get anywhere with that because by then the president will have assumed office and the Justice Department will move under Supremacy Clause that you cannot bring your case, your criminal case, against a sitting president while he's the president. Fox contributor and former assistant United States attorney for the Southern District of New York, Andrew McCarthy, also wrote an op-ed for Fox Digital this week that Trump would not face prison time in the case. Understand, Trump is not going to prison, even if this judge mets out an incarceration sentence. Though the charges are felonies, they are not significantly serious under New York's law to merit immediate detention. Trump will get bail pending appeal, he wrote, if that's the case. Given that Trump is not going to be sent to Rikers Island by a Manhattan judge in any event, it would be prudent to postpone the sentencing, allow Trump to pursue his immunity appeal. That would avoid the unseemlessly and subjectively the next president of the United States to a criminal conviction and sentencing when he is about to take office, he continued. Lawfare was terrible for the country. This resounding win Americans have given Trump should be the death in its place for this lawsuit and this criminal case, McCarthy later added in his story. Here's the deal with that immunity thing, all right? Alvin Braggs' case had two things in it. with their, quote, evidence and witnesses of things that took place while he was president and things that took place when he wasn't president. Therefore, with what the Supreme Court ruled, the entire case is over with. There are no more 34 felony convictions. It will be tossed out. And even if this judge goes against the Supreme Court, then Trump's DOJ, when they take over, will see to it that that no good son of a bitch goes to jail, as he should, along with Alvin Braggs. The U.S. Justice Department officials are reportedly looking to wind down the Biden-Harris administration's federal case against President-elect Donald Trump before his inauguration in January, following his victory over Vice President Kamala Harris. NBC News is reporting tonight that two sources with knowledge to the matter said the Justice Department's attempt to wind down the two federal cases against Trump follows the Justice Department's policy that a sitting president cannot be prosecuted. And this is about the J6 bullshit. The outlet noted that the latest report out of the Justice Department is a stark contrast to Special Counsel Jack Smith's recent legal actions regarding the Biden-Harris administration's election interference case against Trump. The anonymous source told NBC News Justice Department officials do not believe there is time to continue the prosecution against Trump prior to his inauguration following the president-elect victory that took place on Wednesday. As a result, the sources said Smith will have to decide how to unwind the federal charges against Trump in the weeks ahead. In a statement obtained by NBC News, Stephen Chung, a Trump campaign spokesperson, said, the American people have reelected President Trump with an overwhelming mandate to make America great again. It's now abundantly clear that Americans want an immediate end to the weaponization of our justice system so we can, as President Trump said in his historic speech last night, unify our country and work together for the better of our nation. According to Fox News, Justice Department officials cited an Office of Legal Counsel memo, which states that investigating a sitting president would be a violation of the separations of powers. The memo warns an investigation into a sitting president would unduly interfere in a direct formal sense with the conduct of the presidency. The memo adds, in light of the effect of an indictment would have on the operations of the executive branch, and impeachment proceedings is the only appropriate way to deal with a president while in office. So, why are they doing that? Well, it's pretty damn obvious. While I project all these cases are about to just vanish into thin air. Number one, we already have the House Republicans investigating all these cases, and they're finding out there's so much shit that they have found out that was done illegally by these DAs and these judges that I haven't even told you about because we've been covering other stuff that needed to be put out there about the election. But Lord, have they uncovered some stuff to show the corruption that has been taking place, trying to put Trump in jail and tie him up in courtrooms and run him out of money. The other thing is, it's going to be their olive branch. Mark my words. We will just drop all these charges in hopes that you're not going to come after us, because he's made it very, very clear that every one of them that have been doing these illegal things in the court system, the judges and the DAs, he's taken down. And now he's got the support of the House and the Senate and the American people, because he won not just the Electoral College, but the popular vote. In closing, I thought I'd give you something funny to watch, because we need a little laughter every now and then. And this is the best of the best.
Wave has cometh, and the lefties are, well, they're giving me too much content.
I'm sorry. No.
Look, it's fair to say she's not handling it well. As for this next lass, I'm not sure where she is today.
I swear to God, if you idiots elect that demented man, I will burn this whole place to the ground.
And this woman is too old to be this stupid, but sadly, leftism and TDS can leave the sufferer delirious, delusional, and dangerously stupid.
You voted for a racist, a rapist, a dictator. You voted for a bully, a bigot, and a narcissist. Even the Germans tried to warn us, but you didn't listen. You didn't listen to the historians, the psychologists, the educators, and the intellectuals. Of course not, because dictatorship 101 is to convince you to distrust the media, the educated, and to create an us versus them mentality.
It's always the dimmest folk who go on about educated experts. If you're wondering why these lefties are so triggered, so shocked by reality, so out of touch with their fellow Americans, well, it could be because they consume the type of media I'm about to show you now. Here are some of our favourite media leftists who were convinced that Donald Trump was toast, that Kamala was going to win, and win easily.
In my humble view, lights out.
Please welcome back the next president of the United States.
I think it's going to be a blowout, actually. I don't think it's going to be a close race. I think there are going to be those Republicans that vote for Harris.
It'll be tied on election day. As always, the polls will be tied, and then he'll lose.
You call us trash? Oh, Jamie Vance, you just stepped up in a way that I've never seen in my political life, and I worked for Sarah Palin.
I would say take Harris over 270 electoral votes. Let these fools in these crypto markets do something. Let them drive the betting line into a favorable place and then take advantage of it. That's what I would do. I think she's going to win.
You wrote Trump is toast. You stand behind that today?
Oh, even more so. I feel the same way that I felt a few weeks ago that Trump is toast.
And they're not taking the loss well. Here is Sunny Hostin of The View lashing out at white women without college degrees.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him.
Those awful women and Latino men, how dare they think for themselves? By the way, the exit polls showed that the majority of married men, unmarried men, and married women voted for Trump. It was the unmarried women who backed Kamala. What was it that J.D. Vance said about that group? And Sunny also made some absurd claims about losing her civil rights. The desperation to be a victim is strong in this one.
I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have. And I remember my father telling me many, many years ago that I was the first person in his family to enjoy full civil rights. And now I have less civil rights than I had when he told me that. So again, I'm profoundly disturbed.
And the perpetually aggrieved ladies of The View also want greater censorship. They want to curb free speech on social media so a Democrat never loses again.
Well, it would help if we could regulate social media, because one of the biggest offenders is DC and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations of social media.
Now to MSNBC's Joy Reid, who's always having a normal one. Here she claims that Florida is a fascist state.
It's a pure Project 2025 in miniature in Florida, and that kind of extreme, sort of extremist, right-wing, fascist-type government in Florida, does that make it a more attractive place?
Oh dear, and if you're in the habit of consuming media like that, then you may react like this when Donald Trump has a landslide victory.
We may not have rights tomorrow.
I'm scared to go to sleep. I may wake up on my plane.
it's not. I can't deal with it right now.
I am 48 years old and I have never experienced anything like this and never thought I would in this country. I'm so stressed. I don't know how to handle this.
Oh, I'm so sad. But the best reaction goes to this jokester. This is superb work.
I'm literally shaking right now. I'm a trans woman with a baby on the way. What am I going to do? Keep it?
Now, that was parody. I'm not sure if this next video is. I suspect it could be real. It's hard to tell nowadays.
I can't believe Trump's actually going to win this fucking thing. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm so up. God damn it.
And here is another white dude for Kamala, or is it a work of satire?
What the hell? You cannot be serious. How did I wake up to this garbage as my president? That's right, garbage. I went to bed last night and she was ahead. I woke up to this freaking nightmare. Donald Trump? How? Does America have this many Nazi, Hitler-following pieces of trash?
Let's end lefties with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, pretending she's some heroine in a Nazi film. Here she warns that we're about to enter a period of fascism. I'm so scared.
Let's say, peers in history of mass movements of people that mobilize to protect one another in times of fascism and authoritarianism. And this is the era that we are poised to enter.
Okay. If anything breaks between now and next week, I'll do a video about it or I'll do a live show. Other than that, I plan on enjoying this weekend and doing something that doesn't require engaging my brain. Hopefully the weather will be good enough where we can take our boat out. There's a storm coming into the Gulf of Mexico, but it doesn't appear like it's going to come inland. It is a hurricane. It's already in the Gulf, actually. I think it's a Category 2 hurricane, but it looks like it's just going to go into the Gulf and kind of mingle around and probably do a reverse and go back out. I don't know. But they're saying we don't need to worry about it here in Louisiana. So hopefully the weather will be good and we can all enjoy ourselves. Wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, please be safe. In the description of this and all my videos, all my shows, you can follow, see where you can follow me on social media platforms. Follow me, I'll follow you back. That's how we do this. Continue to share this channel. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, whether you're watching me on tonight on Rumble or X or YouTube or LinkedIn. Please subscribe. Hit the subscription button. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. And let's help build this and continue to grow, because it's now time to get to work and make sure that the Republicans that now are in charge are doing their job. That's very, very important. Yet in many places you could be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that I'm forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. And to the angel families out there and the gold star families and blue star families, thank you for putting up with 4 years of this administration pissing on the graves of your loved ones. How pathetic. And I hope that you have some sense of relief now that your loved ones are respected, as are you, once again, by these two clowns and their clown posse being removed from Washington, D.C. Thank you, everyone. God bless you, and I'll be seeing you soon.